Parents who tried their best to raise their kids to be good humans but they turned out to be jerks. What do you wish you did differently? Generally speaking, if you try to teach your kids something and not be the example, you might as well not have wasted your time. Not me, but my parents have discussed what they wish they had done differently for my brother in order to prevent him from becoming a violent, homeless, drug-addicted snotball of a person. They wish they had sent him to therapy before problems ever started, and that they had reacted quicker and sent him sooner when they did. They wish they hadn't yelled so much at all of us. That they had been more patient and forgiving of our mistakes. They wish a lot. My brother's sister-in-law knew there was something off with her son when he was around 2 to 3, all of the doctors and grandparents were just like he needs more discipline, etc. That wasn't it, she stuck with it. Turns out he's a sociopath. Luckily it was caught early enough and they could afford all of the psychiatrist, psychologist, group therapy, etc. that he's learned how he's supposed to act in the world. Last I talked to them he was completely off medication and thriving in school, had to be homeschooled till around 9 to 10. Edit, to everyone questioning his diagnosis, that's the therapy he went through. Teresa documentary about it out there I'm sure you can all find with no difficulty. My brother likely has some schizoaffective disorder, what with all the symptoms he's experiencing, but he just bounces from place to place that wants to help him, abusing that trust. I'm really happy your brother's SEAL's parents reacted in time to make sure their kid turned out a functioning member of society. It takes a lot of guts to admit your kid needs help, and you aren't capable of giving it. I dated a woman about 12 years ago that owns her own preschool. Every now and then she would have to have a sit down with some parents to talk about their kid, and easily more than half of them would not admit their kid had a problem. She was of the opinion that we address the problems early and the kid can really get some help. Some parents would get mad at her and withdraw their kid from the school. How dare she say something is wrong with their kid? There are a lot of messed up kids out there. And they don't realize they're only hurting their kid by not getting that help. Some of it was ignorance, but most of it was pride. Some parents just wouldn't admit their kid had a problem that needs to be addressed. And the ones that did listen to her and got their kid diagnosed or at least looked at always came back to her grateful. She wouldn't diagnose, but just gently suggest they have their kid tested and would give them some resources. But the ones that ignored her. Hooey. Pride. It's pride. They don't want to think there is something wrong with their kid. My friend started behaving differently in our early 20s. I noticed immediately and thought it could be bipolar. I called her family, and her parents didn't listen. She has imploded her life at least 5 times over the years, been arrested, been sectioned, and does have an official diagnosis of bipolar. The first 3 times we warned them early on, we told them it was happening again, and they still denied it. I had to move on in life, I had a family. We are still in touch, and I still love her. It's not her fault, but pride on her family's behalf, and hers, stops her from getting help early on. I have a version of this story with a happier ending. About 2 years ago my roommate good friend had a manic episode. I called his mom and she immediately flew over and checked him into a psych ward. She's a doctor herself. He was diagnosed with bipolar. Now that Hess on the right medication, and off the wrong ones, Hess doing so much better. He still struggles with some symptoms and side effects of the medications, but he hasn't had another episode since. It's scary to think how much worse this could have turned out. The mom of one of the Columbine shooters gave a TED talk about this. She wrote a book called A Mother's Reckoning about all the signs she missed. I think every parent needs to read this book before their kids hit their teenage years. And if anyone's wondering, Sue Klebel donated all of her profits from the book to mental health charities. Great person. Many will say this is the bare minimum to be a good person. But many forget there absolutely are cunts that would profit from this. No, this is definitely an indication of a good person. I wish I could say most parents would donate the profits, but they wouldn't. Few people have the courage to get up in public and say they're the parent of one of the Columbine shooters. That's the incredible part. I have one child, the youngest, who I'm starting to worry about. He's tall, athletic, attractive and very charismatic. I feel like it's a constant battle between teaching him respect and humility and the worship he gets at school. At his age he's not prepared to deal with all these peers who want his attention, tell him how great he is, and the girls lining up to talk to him. Yeah, don't we all wish we had this problem as teens? Anyway, it's a struggle. He's gotten cocky and thinks life will just keep on treating him like a king. And maybe it will, he's got the type of personality that makes people want him around. but he needs to treat others with the same respect he expects for himself. Confidence is good, but it needs to be combined with kindness. Our other children are very level-headed and what we feel are good people. I hope we get to properly tech this to our youngest and that he takes it to heart and chooses to be a good person. He's gotten cocky and thinks life will just keep on treating him like a king. Different situation, but being effing smart made school a joke. The real world isn't school, harsh lesson learned there. Yep. I remember having a teacher senior year pull me aside and tell me as much. Said I've been coasting because I'm smart, but that will change in college if I don't start putting in effort. He was right, but I still didn't learn my lesson and put in effort. I wish I had a teacher to tell me that. I skipped school most of my last 2 years of high school and still got A's. Thought I could do the same in university and ended up wasting 2 years. I wish I knew that some grandparents shouldn't be allowed to have a relationship with a vulnerable, easily manipulated child. I wish I knew it was okay to cut people out of your life. My wife died when my son was 3 months old. Last time my in-laws saw him was at her funeral. I moved, changed numbers and just dropped off the map as far as they knew. Saw how their kids turned out, they weren't getting near mine. I'm so sorry about your wife, man. I can't even imagine going through that. I sincerely wish you're fine and your kid loves you as much as she did. In my experience, most jerk kids come from jerk parents. That being said, kids can easily become jerks when they have no consequences for their actions. Not just as a toddler but throughout childhood. This is true. But I noticed when my kids were in elementary school that so many of them had the nicest parents, and yet their kids were utter brats. I did find out later, a lot of the parents were in fact, jerks. Just knew the societal norms to which they were supposed to conform. My good buddy and his wife are the nicest people in the world and they would do anything for their kids, but I don't think they discipline them at all. When I've seen the kids at group gatherings has always seemed like the jerks out of the group of kids there. I grew up with a girl who had extremely kind-hearted parents, who left their hometown when she was 3 due to sexual abuse at the hands of one of her preschool teachers. We were in school together from kindergarten to high school, and that girl made the first 10 years of my life a living hell. Her parents never reprimanded her because they wanted to give her everything in the world after her scarring childhood experience. She was an utterly sadistic, spoiled brat. Absolutely twisted child. Used to say things to me I wouldn't even think to utter now, as an adult. From what I know, she's still dealing with the trauma and issues. Seems to have been an alcoholic for a while and is now in recovery. I can't help but wonder how differently her life could have ended up if they'd talked to her about the abuse and treated her like a normal human being. Currently pregnant and acutely scanning this thread to take note of what not to do. Check out the book How to Raise Kids Who Aren't Assholes. The Whole Brain Child or Anything by Dan Siegel might be a more scientific approach. Seconding this book and Anything by Siegel. Also How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adele Faber. We wanted our kids to be happy, so I think we coddled and spoiled them. They aren't ready to function independently in the adult world. In retrospect, I think learning some hard lessons growing up helps prepare them and is less damaging than learning those lessons as adults. Edit, to clarify, they aren't jerks, just not ready to be adults. Yes, this is super important. Parents need to let their children fail and work their way through things. I had an ex whose parents removed every obstacle in his way and took care of everything for him. As an example, he was very smart and did well academically. When we had a strict teacher who gave us all bad grades on our first paper, rightfully, we had lots of room to improve, and gave us the opportunity to rewrite it. They met with her to contest the grade and made her cry. He never worked on getting better. He got to college and when he didn't immediately get all A's and thrive in every way, he had a mental breakdown. I also had to teach him basic things like how to use a can opener. I hope has learned how to handle failure and struggle better since then, but the lack of resilience they instilled in him was just sad and harmful. This sort of seems like the gifted kid pipeline I went through. When youths spend their early years cruising through life with minimal challenges, they won't know what to do in the real world. Same. I haven't amounted to much. Good grades came easily to me, hard work wasn't encouraged, and my dad wasn't patient enough to teach me things and let me fail. I'm really making an effort with my daughter to not make the same mistakes.